My name is Catherine, and the day I inherited $15 million, I lost my entire family. No car crash, no accident. They just looked at me, the quiet daughter, the antique girl, the quirky one, with the dusty shop, and decided I owed them everything. They didn't say, "Congratulations." They said, "So how much of it are you giving to Lauren?" That's my sister, the golden one. Law degree, perfect kids, perfect smile, and the loudest voice at every family gathering. I was used to being in the background, used to being overlooked, underestimated, ignored until someone needed a favor. And I played along, for years. But this time something snapped, because this time, the thing they wanted from me wasn't just a weekend, or a ride to the airport, or a check. Just until payday. This time, they wanted my life's work. And I decided they weren't getting a single cent. Not because I'm cruel, but because I finally realized what they really saw me as: a wallet, with a heart they never cared to understand. This is the story of how I built an empire from rust and silence. How I uncovered who they really were, and how I walked away, not just from their greed, but from a lifetime of being disposable. Stay with me, because you might think you'd never be in my shoes. But I thought that too, until the will was read, and everything changed. I wasn't always the quiet one. When I was little, I used to tell my mom I wanted to be a time traveler. I'd sit for hours touching the backs of old chairs, running my hands along the carved legs of broken tables at yard sales. I thought maybe, if I held on long enough, I could feel who used to sit there. What they whispered, what they lost. She used to smile, until one day she didn't. "You can't live off stories, Catherine," she said one night as she folded laundry. "Dreamers end up waiting tables." By high school, my sister Lauren had already won awards, made captain of the debate team, and decided she'd go to Stanford. I got a B in geometry and cried in the school library. No one noticed. Lauren got new laptops, prep tutors, summer intensives. I got a suggestion too. Maybe try something creative, like painting, just for fun. I didn't argue. I just disappeared into books. By the time I turned 20, I had graduated with a quiet degree in art history. No family celebration, no party. Just my dad saying, "What exactly are you planning to do with that?" I didn't know yet, but I was starting to understand something. They didn't want me to succeed. They wanted me to behave. Obedient, humble, predictable. The kind of daughter who sends birthday cards, offers to dog sit, and never asks for anything in return. And I gave them that for a while, until the day I stepped into the basement of an old auction house and saw it. A 19th century French pendulum clock, caked in dust, misfiled in the miscellaneous section. The wood was cracked. The mechanism didn't move. They were selling it for 30, but I could feel it humming, like it remembered who it had once belonged to. I bought it. I spent a week restoring that clock, one hand-polished brass gear at a time. I researched the markings, traced the maker. It had been crafted for a French general under Napoleon III. 3 months later, I sold it at auction in New York for $48,000, and suddenly I knew. I wasn't a dreamer. I was a hunter, a historian, a woman who could read time through wood grain and gold leaf. And I didn't need applause. I needed space. So I bought a tiny storefront in Savannah, named it Ellison Era, and every piece I touched, I gave it back its voice. Old mirrors, chipped candlesticks, half-forgotten chairs. To me, they were never junk. They were stories waiting to be retold. Customers started coming, slowly at first, then more. A retired professor cried when I found a porcelain tea set that matched her grandmother's. A young couple asked me to help them furnish their entire home with pieces from the 1800s. I learned. I failed. I hustled. I got up before sunrise. No one in my family noticed. And that was fine, because in the silence they left, I found something priceless. I trusted myself. I invested quietly, started a company, bought not just the store, but the building, the apartments upstairs, the lot next door. All under a name no one recognized, Camellia Holdings. The same flower that used to grow in my mother's garden, resilient, overlooked, beautiful in its stillness. And just like that flower, I bloomed in silence. Until the day my sister grabbed my phone at Thanksgiving and saw that number, 15.2 million. They looked at me like I had betrayed them. But the truth, that was the day I realized they'd never seen me at all. It was supposed to be a simple dinner. Just the usual, turkey too dry, wine too sweet, and Lauren talking over everyone like she was hosting a courtroom drama. I wore a beige sweater, the same one I always wore to family gatherings, kept my hair in a bun, said little, smiled often, blended in. That had always been the trick. Stay small enough and they won't ask questions. Stay useful, and they'll tolerate your presence. I brought the wine. A good bottle, French, no one noticed. Dinner passed in the usual blur, my father complaining about politics, my mother hovering over the mashed potatoes, Lauren's husband bragging about their son getting into fencing. Then came the moment. I had stepped away to take a call from the shop. A client was confirming a delivery. I left my phone on the kitchen counter for less than 3 minutes. When I came back, Lauren was staring at it like she had just unearthed a secret war file. You have $15 million. The room went silent. My mother froze mid-spoon. My father looked up over his glass. Lauren didn't blink. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. You do, she said, turning the screen toward me. She had opened my investment tracking app. It was still glowing. If 15th, 237, 8/11/29. I reached for the phone. She didn't hand it back right away. My father chuckled, but it wasn't warm. Well, looks like our little antique girl has been holding out on us. Little antique girl. Like I was still 12. Like this wasn't mine. Lauren leaned forward. You could have told us, she said. You could have helped. Helped, I asked. Helped me, she said bluntly. The kids' school is outrageous, and Jeremy's startup is hanging on by threads. My mother added, we just thought you'd be generous. After everything, like years of being dismissed, like carrying the emotional weight of this family in silence, I stood there holding my phone, realizing I had 2 options, stay quiet or speak. So I spoke. I built this on my own, I said, voice low, without help, without anyone cheering. And certainly without anyone offering to pitch in when rent was tight or the lights nearly shut off at the store. They stared at me. I didn't ask anyone for anything, I said. And I'm not starting now, Lauren scoffed. So what? You're just going to sit on all that money while your family struggles? I looked at her for a long time. The sister who once told me antiques were creepy. The sister who used to call me Spinster Spice in front of her friends. No, I said finally. I'm going to sit on all that money because I earned it. And because you didn't. She stood up. You're being selfish? No, I said again. For once, I'm just not being available. My mother started crying. My father shook his head. Lauren called me something under her breath. I picked up my coat and left. No dessert, no hugs goodbye, no looking back. The text messages started before I got home. We didn't mean to offend you. You overreacted. Let's talk. I didn't answer any of them, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one fixing things, and it felt like freedom. For 3 weeks, I didn't hear from them. No texts, no emails, no surprise visits. It was peaceful, unsettling, but peaceful, until the letter came, thick cream envelope, heavy cardstock. My full name written in cursive I hadn't seen since childhood. Inside, a note from my parents. We're updating the family trust. We'd like to have a conversation. A trust. This was new. And in my family, new never meant harmless. I didn't respond. A week later, Lauren showed up at my store. She wore all black, like she was attending a funeral. Maybe the death of her last good chance. You look good, she said, brushing imaginary lint off her blazer. Success suits you. I didn't play along. What do you want? She looked around the store like it was a museum, like everything inside belonged to someone else. Mom and Dad are getting older, she said. They're thinking about the future. Wills, estates, all of that. And, I asked, they want to make sure we're all fair. There it was, the word families use when they want to disguise greed as morality. Fair. What's the ask, Lauren? She sighed. They want to put the house in my name. For tax purposes. I raised an eyebrow. And the lake cabin. She paused. And that, too. But it's not about me. It's about keeping things easy. Clean. For who? She blinked. Catherine, don't make this difficult. You don't even like the lake. I stared at her. The house. The cabin. The family artifacts. All of it was being lined up in her name like dominoes. And I was expected to watch, quietly. I see, I said. You want to talk about fair? Fine. I walked her to the back room, opened my safe, pulled out a stack of folders, notarized titles, purchase contracts, shareholder documents. This, I said, is what fair looks like. I earned every piece. I signed every deal. I paid every tax. Lauren looked at the papers like they were written in another language. I'm not giving you anything, I said, not because I'm bitter, but because I've watched this family pretend generosity is owed. Her face twisted. You really think you're better than us now? No, I said calmly. I think I finally understand who I am. That scares you. She didn't reply, just walked out, the door chime ringing like a bell at the end of a fight. 3 days later, I got an email from a law office. Subject: Notice of contestation, Ellison family estate. They were trying to cut me out of my inheritance. The last piece of the puzzle. Leverage me out by making it look like I'd abandoned the family. That's when I realized this wasn't about money. It was about control. If they couldn't have my fortune, they would try to erase my legacy. And I was done playing nice. I didn't hire a lawyer out of fear. I hired one out of clarity. Her name was Elise. Sharp. Efficient. A former estate litigator with no tolerance for emotional manipulation. I handed her the letter, the trust revisions, the email from the law office, and then I told her everything. From the Thanksgiving dinner ambush to Lauren's attempt at charm disguised as theft to the slow, surgical way my parents were cutting me out of a life I had never been truly part of. She listened, never interrupted, then leaned forward. They're not expecting you to fight, she said. They're expecting you to fold. That's the mistake. What do I do? She smiled. We flipped the script. The plan was simple. Expose the hypocrisy, document the contradictions, and shine a spotlight so blinding that even my family's shadows couldn't survive it. Elise filed a notice with the probate court. Intention to contest trust manipulation under undue influence. That triggered a mandatory discovery period, which meant one thing: depositions. Lauren hated them. My father gritted his teeth through every answer. My mother cried halfway through hers. But crying doesn't erase contradictions. And contradictions were everywhere. Emails where they referred to me as not really part of the family. Texts calling my business cute phase. Voicemails asking me for money, followed by trust paperwork excluding me for distance and lack of involvement. It was all on the record now. The mask was off. Word got out, not just to their lawyer, but to the extended family, to old neighbors, to church friends. Suddenly, the image they'd worked so hard to polish, the perfect, united Ellisons, began to crack. Cousins stopped replying. Donners pulled out of Dad's community project, and Lauren's husband. He asked her point blank over dinner why she needed to borrow against her inheritance. I didn't have to say a word. They were unraveling themselves, but the real breaking point, it came in the form of a letter. A real one, handwritten, from my mother. We were only trying to protect what's rightfully Lauren's. You don't need any of it. We didn't think you'd react this way. And the line that sealed it. You were always too sensitive. That was it. Not sorry. We were wrong. Just a lifetime of gaslighting distilled into 6 words. I folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and handed it to Elise. Let's finish this. The courtroom was cold, not in temperature, in atmosphere. Like stepping into a vault where emotion didn't exist, only evidence. I sat at the left table, Elise beside me, calm as ever. Across from us, my parents, my sister. They didn't look at me. Not once. I didn't expect them to. The judge called order. Then the hearing began. Their attorney opened first. He tried to paint a picture of a confused, reclusive daughter who'd misunderstood her family's intentions. A woman so estranged. She couldn't possibly understand the spirit of the trust. It would have been convincing if Elise hadn't stood up and dismantled it piece by piece. She presented the emails, the texts, the wire transfers from my personal account that covered the family's bills for 6 years straight. She projected a timeline on the screen. Every instance where I stepped in, every birthday I hosted, every document I signed. And then the letter, the one where my mother said, "You were always too sensitive." Elise read it out loud, slowly, clearly. The courtroom fell silent. Then I took the stand. My voice didn't shake, not once. "I was never estranged," I said. "I was invisible, until I wasn't convenient anymore." I looked right at my father. "You told me once that I'd never be successful until I learned to take orders. Well, I stopped taking yours." Then I turned to the judge. "I'm not here to take back anything. I'm here to protect what I built, alone." It took less than an hour for the judge to rule. The revised trust was invalid. Their claims of estrangement were dismissed. I retained full control over my share. But that wasn't the win. The real victory was what came after. As we left the courtroom, Lauren chased after me. Her voice was sharp, desperate. "You just ruined everything." I stopped, turned. "No," I said. "I stopped pretending." She stared at me, stunned, as if for the first time she didn't recognize her little sister. Because I wasn't. Not anymore. I landed in Florida before sunrise, clear water. The plane's wheels kissed the tarmac at 6:15 a.m. I didn't look back at Oregon. Didn't write a note. Didn't even leave a voicemail. Because I wasn't leaving something behind. I was stepping into something new. 3 years ago, I bought a quiet vacation home. 3 bedrooms, red tile roof, and a backyard full of grapefruit trees. I used to visit only when the weight of everything became unbearable. But this time, I didn't come to rest. I came to reset. The house was filled with soulless rental decor, plastic art, fake antiques, beige everything. So I cleared it all out, piece by piece. I hired Alina, a local interior architect with an eye for honesty. Her work wasn't about impressing guests. It was about building homes that breathe. Make it modern, clean, grounded, I told her. I want to walk in and feel like I'm allowed to exist. Meanwhile, I called my attorney. "Robert," I said, "end everything." And he did. Spring Hill Fund stopped all mortgage payments on the Salem house. Brightstone Consulting terminated Douglas Lawson's fake contract. Scholarships for Jacob and Lily Winters would not renew next fall. No explanations, no confrontation, no ceremony, just silence, because I no longer owed them anything. 2 weeks later, I walked into the new CraftLogic headquarters, 9th floor, West Bay District, a panoramic view of the Gulf stretching beyond the skyline. Rachel, Jared, and Dominic were waiting inside. 3 of my earliest team members from Portland. They'd volunteered to relocate. Rachel asked with a smirk, "We're wiping the slate, right?" "Yes," I said. "No more double life. No more pretending I'm small." We didn't just survive the transition. We thrived. By the end of the first quarter, we secured 3 major Florida-based clients. A Boston investment firm sent us a revised company valuation, $59.7 million. And for the first time, I stopped hiding my success. I wore what I liked. Stopped ducking out of conference spotlights. Stopped apologizing for being a woman who dared to succeed without permission. I didn't have to downplay my smartwatch or dodge questions about what my little software company did. I was Ruby Lawson, founder CEO, fully seen. That spring, I attended a Florida Women in Tech networking event. That's where I met Caleb Meyer, digital consultant for nonprofits, warm eyes, grounded energy. The kind of handshake that didn't try to size you up, just said, "You matter." We talked about connecting rural founders to digital tools, then about steamed grouper from a local Thai place, then nothing work-related at all. 3 dinners later, we were walking barefoot along the beach, sharing one pair of earbuds. He looked at me and said, "You're the only person I know who built an empire in silence." I laughed, not because it was untrue, but because for once, I didn't have to correct it. I stayed quiet because I thought if they knew, they'd try to change me. And now, if someone can't accept who I am, they don't get access to me. Every Sunday I hosted dinner on my porch. Long table, string lights, homemade bread. No one asked about payroll. We talked about purpose. That's when I knew I didn't just want to win for myself. I wanted to create space for others like me, young, underestimated, and full of fire. So I started the Ruby Foundation. I thought I'd feel triumphant. I didn't. I thought I'd walk out of that courtroom with my head high, music playing in the background like some Hollywood ending. But there was no music, just the sound of my heels on the pavement. Just the weight of silence that didn't know what to do now that it wasn't filled with their voices. I went home, sat in my old shop, ran my hands over the wood grain of a Victorian dresser I'd restored last fall. And for the first time in a long time, I asked myself a question I didn't know how to answer. Who am I if I'm not proving them wrong anymore? The days after the trial were quiet. Too quiet. No more emails. No more veiled threats. No more gaslighting letters signed, "Love, Mom." Just the steady hum of time passing. Some days I sat by the window for hours and just watched the light change. Other days, I scrubbed the same piece of brass until my hands ached. I wasn't sad, but I wasn't whole either. It's strange. When the people who hurt you are gone, you don't feel free right away. You feel empty, like you've been holding your breath for so long that breathing hurts. But slowly, the peace stopped feeling foreign. Slowly, I stopped expecting the phone to ring with another crisis. I started cooking again. Not just out of habit, out of curiosity. I started sleeping. Not out of exhaustion, out of calm. I started laughing, really laughing. Like when I dropped an entire bowl of soup on my floor and just stared at it for a second, then burst out laughing like a madwoman. There was no one to scold me, no one to sigh and say, "Typical Catherine." It was just me. And in that absurd little moment, I realized something I liked myself. Not in a self-help book kind of way. In a quiet, private, this is enough kind of way. And that was new. It came in the form of a phone call, not from them. From Elise. "You've got mail," she said dryly. "The real kind. From your sister." I didn't say anything. "I can scan it," she offered. But I was already grabbing my keys. It was thick. Heavy. 12 pages of carefully typed sentences. Not a letter. A proposal. They wanted a family mediation session. A meeting. Face to face. No lawyers. No press. No audience. Just them. Just me. They were asking for a conversation. For closure. There was a time I would have jumped at the chance. But now I wasn't sure I needed it. I read it 3 times. Every sentence carried the same undercurrent, not of apology, but of control. We think this could be healing for all of us. We're ready to move forward. We want to restore what we lost, what they lost. Not once did they ask what I needed. Not once did they say, "We see you now." Just page after page of them trying to write the ending. But this was my story. I didn't owe them a conclusion. I sat by the fire that night. A quiet fire, no dramatic winds, no storm in the background, just the flicker of flames, and the sound of the paper curling at the edges. I didn't burn the letter. I didn't keep it either. I left it there, on the hearth, like a page from a chapter I didn't need to reread. In the morning, I sent one text to Eliation. No meeting, let it end here. And just like that, it did. No blow up, no headlines, just stillness. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to fight back. It's to walk away with nothing in your hands and everything in your heart. It's been a year, a full year since the courtroom, since the silence, since I let the letter curl on the hearth and chose not to pick it up again. People think healing is loud, that it comes with breakthroughs, shouting matches, and cinematic tears. But mine came in quieter ways, in learning how to be bored without spiraling, in taking long walks and forgetting to check my phone, in realizing I no longer scanned crowds for familiar faces. I reopened the shop last spring, not out of financial need. I was fine. But because I missed the feel of wood in my hands, the joy of breathing new life into something forgotten. Clients came in slowly at first, then more. Not because I advertised, I never needed to. Word just spread. They came not just for furniture, but for stories, for the quiet atmosphere, for the way the light always slanted across the floor at 4 p.m. and made everything feel a little more real. One afternoon, a girl no older than 20 walked in. She stared at an old oak desk like it held a secret. "My grandmother had one just like this," she said. I told her about the carvings, about the woman who built it in 1912, about how she refused to marry unless her husband let her keep her workshop. The girl smiled. "She sounds like you." I didn't correct her, because maybe, in some ways, she was right. I still get letters, sometimes from extended family, sometimes from people who read about the case and want to share their own stories. I don't respond to most, but I read them. Not out of obligation, out of compassion. I no longer need anyone to see me, because I see myself now. I know who I am, not the fixer, not the fallback, not the family wallet, just Catherine, a woman who rebuilt her world with 2 steady hands and one unshakable truth: I am enough. If you've made it this far, maybe you've lived something similar. Maybe you know what it's like to be taken for granted, to be invisible until you say, no. Let me tell you something. You are not selfish for choosing peace. You are not cruel for walking away. You are not broken for finally saying, that's enough. And if no one has told you this today, I'm proud of you. Truly. If this story spoke to you, please share it with someone who might need it too. Leave a comment. Tell me what part stayed with you. And if you believe stories like these matter, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep telling them together. This is Telling Story with Me, and I'll see you in the next one.